Hello, hello, hello! Greetings, salutations, konnichiwa, and every other form of greeting across this vast, marvelous multiverse. I am Matsu Quinox. This is Horace, and welcome back, my dear, marvelous, wonderful scholars, to the study. Hello there, hello there, hello there, hello there. Hello there, everyone. Hello there, Julian20. Welcome. Hello there, Dr. Zadium. Congratulations on getting first. Hello. Oh. Oh. Hello there, Private Maverick. We're going to do this for right off the bat, aren't we? Uh, okay. 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 Hold on one moment. Oh my goodness. Oh. Horace, why did you even suggest that I do this? I mean, I know you thought it'd be funny, but the fact that they're constantly doing this to me makes it a little bit difficult for me to do my streams. Oh, where did I get everything? Dr. Zadia, Matsu, I can't read right now. I can't read right now. I've caught a bug in my throat. Ha 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 ha. And congratulations on the 3 stream streak. Ha. Do I have everything? Yes? No? Okay. Alright, Julian20, you get to choose. Do I eat a cricket or a larva? Cricket or I'll say mealworm. Cricket or mealworm? Which one, Julian20? Okay, we're doing the crickets again. Okay, now we have a choice between salt and vinegar, bacon and cheese, or sour cream and onion. Which one, Julian20? Salt and vinegar, bacon and cheese, or sour cream and onion? I haven't done the sour cream and onion. And I'm guessing that's going to be your choice then. Okay. Okay. This is going to be fun. Hello, all you wonderful scholars. You are entering just as I'm about to oh, eat a sour cream and onion cricket. Julian20, you enjoy. I am. I am. I am completely given into my fate here. Oh my god. Okay, I'll grab. Oh my goodness. I'll grab one. Oh. Oh, this one has a wing really sticking out. Let's take a smell of it first. It smells like every single cricket I've eaten so far. Okay, I'm gonna get the water ready just in case. Alright. Head first. Here we go. Sour cream and onion cricket. It really doesn't taste like much. I don't taste the sour cream or the onion. I just say taste the cricket. Oh, nah. Eh. I'm getting pieces of the wing stuck in my tongue. Mm, mm. Oh my goodness. Again, I'll say this. I really hate to say this. Crickets don't taste that bad. They really aren't that awful. They taste okay. Oh, that doesn't settle well. Oh, hold on. Oh, oh. Okay, that one has a bit of a. Oh God, backwash. Oh, that did not taste. Oh, oh. Mm. That one has a bit. Oh my. Oh no. Mm, mm. Oh, trying to keep it down. I'm trying to keep it down. Oh, and that aftertaste. Oh, I'm trying to keep it down. Hello there. Hello there, Camille Dip. Welcome. Glad to have you here. You just came in as I'm eating a cricket. Oh. Mm. Oh, that's kind of foul. Thank you for the follow. Oh my goodness. Welcome. Oh, I don't normally do this, but Julian20 redeemed the redeemed the Matsu eats a bug what reward. Julian20 better than spiders. You can buy spiders to eat. Oh. So I'll say so far out of the 3 crickets I've had, salt and vinegar is the best one. Salt and vinegar actually tastes good. This one, I don't like it. I think I was gonna throw up. Actually, I managed to keep it down. So, for all you newcomers, I am Matsu Quinox, interdimensional omniversal librarian. This is my marvelous companion and head roommate Horace. I have just oh mm, mm, I'm gonna have to keep moving. I'm gonna have to keep moving on. How are all you wonderful scholars doing tonight? Oh my gosh. Mm. How are all you marvelous scholars doing tonight? I hope you're doing better than I am. Helium 20 better now? What? Are you laughing at my misery? Is that the sort of person you are, Helium 20? Dr. Zadie, I'm doing well. Evil, come. You're going on my list. You're going on the list. Oh, I can still feel it in my throat. I can still feel it. I think it was the wing that actually made it worse. Oh my goodness. Pardon that. So, for those who have just come in, we are going to read tonight more of The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. If I can manage this. Um, Last time we read was actually just 2 short chapters. They met Alan a Dale, who is depressed because his one true love is being married off to another knight. So they went off to seek a way to save him, or rather save his one true love. And they met, Robin Hood met Friar Tuck, who they managed to convince to come with them to help the couple. Thank you for the hydrate, Julian20. This does not get you off the list. Mm. I'm keeping an eye on you. I'm sure Ovid would do it if he wasn't off there making cookies. He has a baker. He's into baking right now. Not sure why. Anyway, so my dear scholars, are you ready to re-enter the world of Robin Hood? Right now, I absolutely hate my existence. So then, sit back, relax, have a hot or cold beverage of your liking, dim the lights if possible, and we will continue our reading of The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle. 3. Robin Hood compasseth the marriage of 2 true lovers. And now had come the morning when fair Ellen was to be married, and on which merry Robin had sworn that Allen a Dale should, as it were, eat out of the platter that had been filled for Sir Stephen of Trent. I'm sure that platter wasn't filled with crickets! Up, where was I? Oh, yes. Up rose Robin Hood, blithe and gay. Up rose his merry men, one and all. And up rose last of all stout Friar Tuck, winking the smart of sleep from out of his eyes. Doctor say to him, chirp, chirp, it's not funny! It's not funny! Then, while the air seemed to brim over with the song of many birds, all blended together, and all joined in the misty morn, each man raved face and hands in the leaping brook, and so the day began. Now, quoth Robin, when they had broken their fast, and each man had eaten his fill, it is time for us to set forth upon the undertaking that we have in hand for today. I will choose me 1 score of my good men to go with me, for I may need aid, and thou, Will Scarlet, wilt abide here, and be the chief whilst I am gone. Dr. Zadium, see what you need to do is make like a 50,000 point redeem to remove bug eating from the redeem options. A redeem to remove a redeem. That'd be honestly kind of mean. I'll think about it. Then, searching through all the band, each man of whom crowded forward, eager to be chosen, Robin called such as he wished by name, until he had a score of stout fellows, the very flower of his yeomanry. Besides Little John and Will Stuteley were nigh all those famous lads of whom I have already told you. Then, while those so chosen ran leaping, full of joy, to arm themselves with bow and shaft and broadsword, Robin Hood stepped aside into the covert, and there donned a gay, beribboned coat, such as might have been worn by some strolling minstrel, and slung a harp across his shoulder, the better to carry out that part. Julian 20, I could do that and still have some left. I am dreading this then. And now I warrant Robin Hood was a sight to make all men stare. His hose were of green, but his jerkin was of mixed red and yellow, all hung about with streamers and knots and tags and ribbons of red and yellow also. Upon his head he wore a tall hat of red leather, and thrust therein was a nodding peacock's plume. All the band stared, and many laughed, for never had they seen their master in such a fantastic guise before. Little John walked around him, seriously observing him narrowly, with his neck craned and his head on one side. As you may have seen the barnyard cock walk slowly round some unwonted thing, such as a sleeping cat or what not, pausing anon and anon, moving again with doubtful step, wondering the while, and clucking to himself, so walked Little John around Robin with such words as, "Law, look ye there now, is it sooth? 'Tis pretty, I wot." At last he stopped in front of Robin. "By my soul," said he, "this same is a dainty and pretty dress that thou hast upon thee, good master. Never hath sweeter bodily clothing been sin good Saint Wolfhard, the martyr, saw one sitting upon a rock, painting his tail purple and green." "Truly," quoth Robin, holding up his arms and looking down at himself, "I do think it be somewhat of a gay, gaudy grasshopper dress. But it is a pretty thing for all that, and doth not ill befit the turn of my looks, albeit I wear it but for the nonce. But stay, Little John, here are 2 bags that I would have thee carry in thy pouch for the sake of safekeeping. I can ill care for them myself beneath this motley. Lady Yumi, don't tempt him. I'm still saving points. I am very tempted. Lady Yumi, it might take months, but I'll eventually get him to eat a handful. Please explain yourself, Yumi. Would you like to explain yourself now? I never said I would have a handful. Are you are you trying to make my existence miserable? Yumi? Lady Yumi? Are you? Are you? Because if you are, I cannot abide by this. You need to tell you we love you, Matsu. Lady Yumi, a whole handful of crickets. One moment, my dear scholars. No, no, I am out. I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. I'm done. I'm done. Horse, no, no. You heard what she's saying? No, I'm not. I'm not hysterical. I am absolutely in control of myself. Of course, they're just tiny things. I'm not gonna eat a handful. But I'm. Well, I know I set up the redeem. I no. I. Fine, fine, fine. Sorry about that. Horace and I had a little discussion, and it was agreed that I might have been overreacting just a little bit. Um, so I better get back to the story then. Sorry about that, everyone. Why, master, quoth Little John, taking the bags and weighing them in his hand, here is the chink of gold. Well, what an there be, said Robin. It is mine own coin, and the band is none the worse for what is there. Come, busk ye, lads. And he turned quickly away. Get ye ready straightway. Then gathering the score together in a close rank, in the midst of which were Allan a Dale and Friar Tuck, he led them forth upon their way from the forest shades. So they walked on for a long time, till they had come out of Sherwood and to the vale of Rother's stream. Here were different sights from what one saw in the forest. Hedgerows, broad fields of barley corn, pasture lands rolling upward till they met the sky, and all dotted over with flocks of white sheep. Hayfields whence came the odor of new-mown hay that lay in smooth swaths over which skimmed the swifts in rapid flight. Such they saw, and different was it, I wot, from the tangled depths of the sweet woodlands, but full as fair. Thus Robin led his band, walking blithely with chest thrown out and head thrown back, snuffing the odors of the gentle breeze that came drifting from over the hay fields. Truly, quoth he, the dear world is as fair here as in the woodland shades. Who calls it a vale of tears? Methinks it is but the darkness in our minds that bringeth gloom to the world. For what saith that merry song thou singest, Little John? Is it not just? Is it not thus? For when my love's eyes do shine, when her lips smile so rare, the day it is jog cool and fine, so fine, though let it be wet or be fair. And when the stout ale is all flowing so fast, and our sorrows and our troubles are things of the past. Julian 20. Oh, I love your singing. Oh, thank you. I try. I'm trying to remember Friar Tuck's voice. That's the trouble, my dear scholars, with doing voice acting for these things. You forget what voices were for which. Nay, said Friar Tuck piously, you do think of profane things, and of naught else. Yet truly there be better safeguards against care and woe than ale drinking and bright eyes, to wit, fasting and meditation. Look upon me. Am I the likeness of a sorrowful man? At this a great shout of laughter went up from all around, for the night before the stout friar had emptied twice as many cannikins of ale as any one of all the merry men. Truly, quoth Robin, when he could speak for laughter, I should say that thy sorrows were about equal to thy goodliness. Excuse me. So they stepped along, talking, singing, jesting, and laughing, until they had come to a certain little church that belonged to the great estates owned by the rich priory of Emmet. Here it was that fair Ellen was to be married on that morn, and here was the spot toward which the yeomen had pointed their toes. On the other side of the road, from where the church stood while waving fields of barley around, ran a stone wall along the roadside. Over the wall from the highway was a fringe of young trees and bushes, and here and there the wall itself was covered by a mass of blossoming woodbine that filled all the warm air far and near with its sweet summer odor. Then straightway the yeoman leaped over the wall, alighting on the tall soft grass upon the other side, frightening a flock of sheep that lay there in the shade, so that they scampered away in all directions. Here was a sweet cool shadow both from the wall and from the fair young trees and bushes, and here sat the yeomen down, and glad enough they were to rest after their long tramp of the morning. Now, quoth Robin, I would have one of you watch and tell me when he sees anyone coming to the church, and the one I choose shall be young David of Doncaster. So get thee upon the wall, David, and hide behind the woodbine, so as to keep watch. Accordingly, young David did as he was bidden, the others stretching themselves at length upon the grass, some talking together, and others sleeping. Then all was quiet, save only for the low voices of those that talked together, and for Allan's restless footsteps pacing up and down, for his soul was so full of disturbances that he could not stand still, and saving, also, for the mellow snoring of Friar Tuck, who enjoyed his sleep with a noise as of one sawing soft wood very slowly. Oh, hello there, Blah Blah. Welcome. Hi, Horace. Horace says hi to you as well, Blah Blah. Horace gave me a little speech about responsibility to my scholars. He is quite the admirable companion. Then up spoke Robin. Now, tell us, young David of Doncaster, what dost thou see? Then David answered, I see white clouds floating, and I feel the wind a blowing, and 3 black crows are flying over the wold, but naught else do I see, good master. So silence fell again, and another time passed, broken only, as I have said, till Robin, growing impatient, spake again. Now tell me, young David, what dost thou see by this? Let me get another drink of water. Oh, excuse me. And David answered, I see the windmills swinging, and 3 tall poplar trees swaying against the sky, and a flock of fieldfares are flying over the hill. But naught else do I see, good master. So another time passed, till at last Robin asked young David once more what he saw, and David said, I hear the cuckoo singing, and I see how the wind makes waves in the barley field. And now over the hill to the church cometh an old friar, and in his hands he carries a great bunch of keys. And lo! Now he cometh to the church door. Now this pattern of the way they're speaking really, to me, makes me feel that this story, this little story here, was adapted directly from the ballads, because there is that pattern in the way they're describing things. Robin says, David says, Robin says, David says, Robin says, David says. So there's a call and answer, which would be, of course, found in many ballads. So this is feels like it is a leftover from the ballad stories of Robin Hood, which was, what Robin Hood apparently originated in. Then up rose Robin Hood and shook Friar Tuck by the shoulder. "Come, rouse thee, holy man!" cried he, whereupon with much grunting the stout Tuck got to his feet. "Marry, bestir thyself," quoth Robin, "for yonder in the church door is one of thy cloth. Go thou and talk to him, and so get thyself into the church, that thou mayest be there when thou art wanted. Meanwhile, Little John, Will Stuteley, and I will follow thee anon." So Friar Tuck clambered over the wall, crossed the road, and came to the church, where the old friar was still laboring with the great key, the lock being somewhat rusty, and he somewhat old and feeble. "Hello, brother!" quoth Tuck. "Let me aid thee." So saying, he took the key from the other's hand, and quickly opened the door with a turn of it. "Who art thou, good brother?" asked the old friar in a high, wheezing voice. "Whence comest thou, and whither art thou going?" And he winked and blinked at stout Friar Tuck like an owl at the sun. "Thus do I answer thy questions, brother," said the other. "My name is Tuck, and I go no further than this spot. If thou wilt haply but let me stay while this same wedding is going forward. I come from Fountaindale, and in truth am a certain poor hermit, as one may say, for I live in a cell beside the fountain, blessed by that holy Saint Ethelrada, which suffered the sharpest martyrdom that ever befell a woman. To wit, she had her tongue cut out, so that she could speak no more words than a dead jackdaw, as it were. Oh my goodness, that is so gruesome. But what befell? Marry, listen. Straight came this blessed woman to that same fountain, so it was, and yet I am fain to confess that ne'er ha' I got much good from the waters thereof, for cold water doth ever stir my inward parts with certain gripings and what not. But, piped the old brother in his high, wheezing voice, I do much wish to know what befell this holy woman upon coming to that same blessed fountain. Mary, a drink o' the waters, and straightway regained that which an evil-minded fellow might say, and many might think, with no such heavenly gift, and that was her powers of speech. But if I understand aught, there is to be a gay wedding here to-day. So if thou mindest not, I would fain rest me in the cool shade within, for I would like to see this fine sight. Truly, thou art welcome, brother, said the old man, leading the way within. Meanwhile, Robin Hood in his guise of harper, together with Little John and Will Stuteley, had come to the church. Robin sat him down on a bench beside the door, but Little John, carrying the 2 bags of gold, went within, as did Will Stuteley. So Robin sat by the door, looking up the road and down the road to see who might come, till after a time he saw 6 horsemen come riding steadily and slowly, as became them, for they were churchmen in high orders. Then, when they had come nearer, Robin saw who they were, and knew them. The first was the Bishop of Hereford, and a fine figure he cut, I wot. His vestments were of the richest silk, and around his neck was a fair chain of beaten gold. The cap that hid his tonsure was of black velvet, and around the edges of it were rows of jewels that flashed in the sunlight, each stone being set in gold. His hose were of flame-covered silk, and his shoes of black velvet, the long pointed toes being turned up and fastened to his knees, and on either instep were embroidered a cross in gold thread. Beside the bishop rode the prior of Emmet upon a mincing palfrey. Rich were his clothes also, but not so gay as the stout bishop's. Behind these were two of the higher brethren of Emmet, and behind these again two retainers belonging to the bishop. For the Lord Bishop of Hereford strove to be as like the great barons as was in the power of one in holy orders. When Robin saw this train drawing near, with flash of jewels and silk, and jingle of silver bells, and the trappings of the nags, he looked sourly upon them. Quoth he to himself, Yon bishop is over gaudy for a holy man. I do wonder whether his patron, who methinks was St. Thomas, was given to wearing golden chains upon his neck, silk clothing upon his body, and pointed shoes upon his feet, the money for all of which, God wot, hath been run from the sweat of poor tenants. Bishop, bishop, thy pride may have a fall ere thou wottest of it. So the holy men came to the church, the bishop and the prior jesting and laughing between themselves about certain fair dames, their words more befitting the lips of laymen, methinks, than holy clerks. Then they dismounted, and the bishop, looking around, presently caught sight of Robin, standing in the doorway. "Hello, good fellow!" quoth he in a jovial voice. "Who art thou that struttest in such gay feathers?" "A harper am I from the north country," quoth Robin, "and I can touch the strings, I wot, as never another man in all merry England can do." "Truly, good Lord Bishop, many a knight and burglar, clerk and layman, have danced to my music, willy-nilly, and most times greatly against their will, such is the magic of my harping. Now this day, my Lord Bishop, if I may play at this wedding, I do promise that I will cause the fair bride to love the man she marries with a love that shall last as long as that twine shall live together." Is it so?" cried the bishop. "Meanest thou this in sooth?" And he looked keenly at Robin, who gazed boldly back again into his eyes. "Now, if thou wilt cause this maiden, who hath verily bewitched my poor cousin Stephen, thus to love the man she is to marry, as thou sayest thou canst, I will give thee whatsoever thou wilt ask me in due measure. Let me have a taste of thy skill, fellow." "Nay," quoth Robin, "my music cometh not without I choose, even at a Lord Bishop's bidding. In sooth, I will not play until the bride and bridegroom come." "Now thou art a saucy fellow to speak so to my crest," quoth the bishop, frowning on Robin. "Yet I must needs bear with thee. Look, prior, hither cometh our cousin Sir Stephen, and his lady love." And now around the bend of the high road came others riding upon horses. The first of all was a tall, thin man of knightly bearing, dressed all in black silk, with a black velvet cap upon his head, turned up with scarlet. Robin looked, and had no doubt that this was Sir Stephen, both because of his knightly carriage and of his grey hairs. Beside him rode a stout Saxon franklin, Ellen's father, Edward of Deerwald. Behind those two came a litter borne by two horses, and therein was a maiden whom Robin knew must be Ellen. Behind this litter rose 6 men at arms, the sunlight flashing on their steel caps as they came jingling up the dusty road. Excuse me. So these also came to the church, and there Sir Stephen leapt from his horse, and coming to the litter handed fair Ellen out therefrom. Then Robin Hood looked at her, and could wonder no longer how it came about that so proud a knight as Sir Stephen of Trent wished to marry a common franklin's daughter. Nor did he wonder that no ado was made about the matter, for she was the fairest maiden that ever he had beheld. Now, however, she was all pale and drooping, like a fair white lily snapped at the stem, and so with bent head and sorrowful looks she went within the church, Sir Stephen leading her by the hand. "Why dost thou not play, fellow?" quoth the bishop, looking sternly at Robin. "Marry," said Robin calmly, "I will play in greater wise than your lordship thinks, but not till the right time hath come," said the bishop to himself, while he looked grimly at Robin. "When this wedding is gone by, I will have this fellow well whipped for his saucy tongue and bold speech." Another drink of water. And now fair Ellen and Sir Stephen stood before the altar, and the bishop himself came in his robes and opened his book, whereat fair Ellen looked up and about her in bitter despair, like the fawn that finds the hounds on her haunch. Then, in all his fluttering tags and ribbons of red and yellow, Robin Hood strode forward. 3 steps he took from the pillar whereby he leaned, and stood between the bride and bridegroom. "Let me look upon this, lass," he said in a loud voice. "Why, how now? What have we here? Here be lilies in the cheeks, and not roses such as befit a bonny bride. This is no fit wedding. Thou, Sir Knight, so old, and she so young, and thou thinkest to make her thy wife? I tell thee it may not be, for thou art not her own true love." At this all stood amazed, and knew not where to look, nor what to think or say, for they were all bewildered with the happening. So whilst every one looked at Robin as though they had been changed to stone, he clapped his bugle horn to his lips, and blew 3 blasts so loud and clear, they echoed from floor to rafter as though they were sounded by the trump of doom. Then straightway Little John and Will Stuteley came leaping and stood upon either side of Robin Hood, and quickly drew their broadswords, the while a mighty voice rolled over the heads of all. Where was I? Oh, yeah. "Here be..." Yeah, wrong voice. "Here be I, good master, when thou wantest me." For it was Friar Tuck that so called from the organ loft. Now, all was hubbub and noise. Stout Edward strode forward raging, and would have seized his daughter to drag her away, but Little John stepped between and thrust him back. "Stand back, old man," said he. "Thou art a hobbied horse this day." "Down with the villains!" cried Sir Stephen. Oh, thank you for the hydrate, Lady Yumi. I did need it. "Down with the villains!" cried Sir Stephen, and felt for his sword, but it hung not beside him on his wedding day. Then the men-at-arms drew their swords, and it seemed like blood would wet the stones. But suddenly came a bustle at the door, and loud voices. Steel flashed in the light, and the crash of blows sounded. The men-at-arms fell back, and up the aisle came leaping 18 stout yeomen, all clad in Lincoln green, with Allan a Dale at their head. In his hand he bore Robin Hood's good stout trusty bow of yew, and this he gave to him, kneeling the while upon one knee. Then up spoke Edward of Deerwold in a deep voice of anger. "Is it thou, Eleanor Dale, that hath bred all this coil in our church?" "Nay," quoth merry Robin, "that have I done, and I care not who knoweth, for my name is Robin Hood." At this name a sudden silence fell. The prior of Emmet and those that belonged to him gathered together like a flock of frightened sheep when the scent of the wolf is nigh, while the Bishop of Hereford, laying aside his book, crossed himself devoutly. "Now heaven keep us this day," said he, "from that evil man." "Nay," quoth Robin, "I mean you no harm, but here is fair Ellen's betrothed husband, and you shall marry him, or pain will be bred to some of you." Then up spake stout Edward in a loud and angry voice. "Now I say nay. I am her father, and she shall marry Sir Stephen or none other." Now all this time, whilst everything was in turmoil about him, Sir Stephen had been standing in proud and scornful silence. "Nay, fellow," said he coldly, "thou mayest take thy daughter back again. I would not marry her after this day's doing, could I gain all merry England thereby. I tell thee plainly, I love thy daughter, old as I am. I would have taken her up like a jewel from the sky, yet truly I knew not that she did love this fellow, and was beloved by him. Maiden, if thou dost rather choose a beggarly minstrel than a high-born knight, take thy choice. I do feel it shame that I should thus stand talking amid this herd, and so I will leave you." Thus saying, he turned, and gathering his men about him, walked proudly down the aisle. Then all the yeomen were silenced by the scorn of his words. Only Friar Tuck leaned over the edge of the choir loft and called out to him ere he had gone, "Good den, Sir Knight, thou wottest old bones must always make room for young blood." Sir Stephen neither answered nor looked up, but passed out from the church as though he had heard not, his men following him. Then the Bishop of Hereford spoke hastily. "I too have no business here, and so will depart." And he made as though he would go, but Robin Hood laid hold of his clothes and held him. "Stay, my Lord Bishop," said he, "I have yet somewhat to say to thee." The bishop's face fell, but he stayed as Robin bade him, for he saw he could not go. Then Robin Hood turned to stout Edward of Deerwood, and said he, "Give thy blessing on thy daughter's marriage to this yeoman, and all will be well. Little John, give me the bags of gold. Look, farmer, here are 200 bright golden angels. Give thy blessing as I say, and I will count them out to thee as thy daughter's dower. Give not thy blessing, and she shall be married all the same, but not so much as a cracked farthing shall cross thy palm. Choose." Then Edward looked upon the ground, with bent brows, turning the matter over and over in his mind. But he was a shrewd man, and one withal, that made the best use of a cracked pipkin. So at last he looked up and said, but in no joyous tone, "If the wench will go her own gait, let her go." Oh, nice, calling his own daughter a wench. "I had thought to make a lady of her. Yet if she chooses to be what she is like to be, I have naught to do with her henceforth. Nevertheless, I will give her my blessing when she is duly wedded." Oh, hello there, Dragon Thunder 5000. Welcome. Redeemed radio voice. Oh my goodness. We'll do a radio voice just for you, Dragon Thunder, and I will include a hoo-ya there. Let me get it all ready. Greetings, all you wonderful scholars tonight, and welcome back once again to Radio Matsu, where we entertain you all night long. Tonight, we're reading The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. So sit back, relax, and just for you, Dragon Thunder, let's have a hoo-ya just for you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself, all you marvelous scholars. Thank you, and once again, welcome back to Radio Matsu. Excuse me. Oh, yes, hoo-ya indeed. It may not be, spake up one of those of Emmet. The banns have not been duly published, neither is there any priest here to marry them. What sayest thou? Roared Tuck from the choir loft. No priest? Marry, here stands as holy a man as thou art. Any day of the week a clerk in orders, I would have thee know. As for the question of banns, stumble not over that straw, brother, for I will publish them. So saying, he called the banns, and saying the old ballad, lest 3 times should not be enough, he published them 9 times over. Then straightway he came down from the loft, and forthwith performed the marriage service, and so Allan and Ellen were duly wedded. And now Robin counted out 200 golden angels to Edward of Deerwald, and he, upon his part, gave his blessing. Yet not, I wot, as though he meant it with overmuch good will. Then the stout yeoman crowded around and grasped Allan's palm, and he, holding Ellen's hand within his own, looked about him all dizzy with his happiness. Then, as at last jolly Robin turned to the Bishop of Hereford, who had been looking on at all that passed with a grim look. Sorry. My lord Bishop, quoth he, thou mayest bring to thy mind, that thou didst promise me that did I play in such wise as to cause this fair lass to love her husband, thou wouldst give me whatsoever I asked in reason. I have played my part, and she loveth her husband, which she would not have done but for me. So now fulfil thy promise. Thou hast upon thee that which, methinks, thou wouldst be the better without. Therefore, I pray thee give me that golden chain that hangeth about thy neck as a wedding present for this fair bride. Then the bishop's cheeks grew red with rage, and his eyes flashed. He looked at Robin with a fell look, but saw that in the yeoman's face, which bade him pause. Then slowly he took the chain from about his neck, and handed it to Robin, who flung it over Ellen's head so that it hung glittering about her shoulders. Then said merry Robin, I thank thee, on the bride's part, for thy handsome gift, and truly thou thyself art more seemingly without it. Now shouldst thou ever come nigh to Sherwood, I much hope that I shall give thee there such a feast as thou hast nigh had in all thy life before. If you could tell, speaking in this kind of fox old English is very, very, very difficult. May heaven forfend! Cried the bishop earnestly, for he knew right well what manner of feast it was that Robin Hood gave his guests in Sherwood Forest. Lady Yumi, yo, that's a nice necklace. Hand it over. Thank you for the translation, Lady Yumi. That is absolutely perfect. But now Robin Hood. Oh, thank you for the hydrate. Mm. But now Robin Hood gathered his men together, and with Allan and his young bride in their midst, they all turned their footsteps towards the woodlands. On the way thither, Friar Tuck came close to Robin and plucked him by the sleeve. Oh, thank you for the posture check, like Julian 20. Thou dost lead a merry life, good master, quoth he, but dost thou not think that it would be for the welfare of all your souls to have a good stout chaplain, such as I, to oversee holy matters? Truly I do love this life mightily. At this merry Robin Hood laughed amain, and bade him stay and become one of their hand if he wished. That night there was such a feast held in the greenwood as Nottinghamshire never saw before. To that feast you and I were not bidden, and pity it is that we were not so, lest we should both feel the matter the more keenly. Yeah, where was I? And so, lest we should both feel the matter more keenly, I will say no more about it. Thus ends the merry story of Allan a Dale, and how Robin Hood and Friar Tuck benefited him. And now we shall hear anon of other troubles than those that beset gentle lovers, and how Robin Hood helped a good stout knight that was in sore need of aid. So, listen to what follows. Another drink of water just in case. Part 5th. We are moving much. There, I looked it up. There are 8 parts in this book, so we have 3 parts left, actually. We're making good progress in this story. We are exactly at the halfway point in the book, at least this copy I've got. Part 5th, in which it is told how that Robin Hood met a sorrowful knight and brought him to Sherwood. Also, how the Bishop of Hereford was more generous than he desired to be. Likewise, it is told how Sir Richard of the Lea paid his debts in due season, both to the Prior of Emmet and to Robin Hood. Excuse me. Lady Yumi, yep, hydrate those vocal cords. Yeah, I have to. There's so many voices in this. 1. Robin Hood aideth a sorrowful knight. So passed the gentle springtime away in budding beauty, its silver showers and sunshine, its green meadows and its flowers. So likewise passed the summer, with its yellow sunlight, its quivering heat and deep bosky foliage, its lawn twilights and its mellow nights, through which the frogs croaked and fairy folk were said to be out on the hillsides. All this had passed, and the time of fall had come, bringing with. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second, my dear scholars. There we are. All this had passed, and the time of fall had come, bringing with it its own pleasures and joyousness. Joyousness. For now, when the harvest was gathered home, merry bands of gleaners roamed the country about, singing along the roads in the daytime, and sleeping beneath the hedgerows and the hayricks at night. Now the hips burned red in the tangled thickets, and the hues waxed black in the hedgerows. The stubble lay all crisp and naked to the sky, and the green leaves were fast turning russet and brown. Also, at this merry season, good things of the year are gathered in great store. Brown ale lies ripening in the cellar, hams and bacon hang in the smoke shed, and crabs are stowed away in the straw for roasting in the winter time, when the north wind piles the snow and drifts around the gables, and the fire crackles warm upon the hearth. So pass the seasons then, so pass they now, and so they will pass in time to come, whilst we come and go like leaves of the tree that fall and are soon forgotten. Quoth Robin Hood, snuffling the air, "Here is a fair day, Little John, and one that we can ill waste in idleness. Choose such men as thou dost need, and go thou east, while I will wend to the west, and see that each of us bringeth back some goodly guest to dine this day beneath the greenwood tree." "Marry," cried Little John, clapping his palms together for joy, "thy bidding fitteth my liking like heft to blade. I'll bring thee back a guest this day, or come not back mine own self." Then they each chose such of the band as they wished, and so went forth by different paths from the forest. Now, you and I cannot go two ways at the same time, whilst we join in these merry doings. So we will and let Little John follow his own path, while we tuck up our skirts and trudge after Robin Hood. I kind of like that. I kind of like sometimes that the narrator remembers that, even though he is the writer, that he can't be everywhere at once, and so he knows that there's only so much focus this story can have. And here is good company too. Robin Hood, Will Scarlet, Allen a Dale, Will Scathlock, Midge the miller's son, and others. A score or more of stout fellows had abided in the forest with Friar Tuck to make ready for the homecoming, but all the rest were gone either with Robin Hood or Little John. They travelled onward, Robin following his fancy, and the others following Robin. Now they wended their way through an open dale with cottage and farm lying therein, and now again they entered woodlands once more. Passing by fair Mansfield town, with its towers and battlements and spires all smiling in the sun, they came at last out of the forest lands. Onward they journeyed, through highway and byway, through villages where good wives and merry lasses peeped through the casements at the fine show of young men, until at last they came over beyond Alverton in Derbyshire. By this time high noontide had come, yet they had met no guests such as was worth their while to take back to Sherwood. So, coming at last to a certain spot where a shrine stood at the crossing of two roads, Robin called upon them to stop, for here on either side was shelter of high hedgerows, behind which was good hiding, whence they could watch the roads at their ease. While they ate their midday meal, quoth merry Robin, "Here, methinks, is good lodging, where peaceful folk, such as we be, can eat in quietness. Therefore we will rest here, and see what may, perchance, excuse me, fall into our luck pot." So they crossed a stile, and came behind a hedgerow, where the mellow sunlight was bright and warm, and where the grass was soft, and there sat them down. Then each man drew from the pouch that hung beside him that which he had brought to eat, for a merry walk such as this had been sharpens the appetite till it is as keen as a March wind. So no more words were spoken, but each man saved his teeth for better use, munching at brown crust and cold meat right lustily. In front of them, one of the high roads crawled up the steep hill and then dipped suddenly over its crest, sharp cut with hedgerow and shaggy grass against the sky. Over the top of the windy hill peeped the eaves of a few houses of the village that fall back into the valley behind. There also showed the top of a windmill, the sails slowly rising and dipping from behind the hill against the clear blue sky, as the light wind moved them with creaking and labored swing. So the yeomen lay behind the hedge and finished their midday meal. But still the time slipped along, and no one came. At last a man came slowly riding over the hill and down the stony road towards the spot where Robin and his band lay hidden. He was a good stout knight, but sorrowful of face and downcast of mind. His clothes were plain and rich, but no chain of gold, such as folk of his stand in life wore at most times, hung around his neck, and no jewels about him. Yet no one could mistake him for aught but one of proud and noble blood. His head was bowed upon his breast, and his hands drooped limp on either side, so he came slowly riding as though sunk in sad thoughts, whilst even his good horse, the reins loose upon his neck, walked with hanging head, as though he shared his master's grief. Quoth Robin Hood, "Yon is verily a sorry-looking gallant, and doth seem to have donned ill content with his jerkin this morning. Nevertheless, I will out and talk with him, for there may be some pickings here for a hungry daw. Methinks his dress is rich, though he himself is so downcast. Bide ye here till I look into this matter." So saying, he arose and left them, crossing the road to the shrine, and there stood waiting for the sorrowful knight to come near him. So presently, when the knight came riding slowly along, jolly Robin stepped forward and laid his hand upon the bridle rein. "Hold, Sir Knight," quoth he, "I pray thee tarry for a short time, for I have a few words to say to thee." "What art thou, friend, who dost stop a traveller in this manner upon his most gracious Majesty's highway?" said the knight. "Marry, that is a question hard to answer. One man calleth me kind, another calleth me cruel. This one calleth me good, honest fellow, and that one vile thief. Truly the world hath as many eyes to look upon a man withal as there are spots on a road. So with what pair of eyes thou regardest me lieth entirely with thine own self. My name is Robin Hood." "Truly, good Robin," said the knight with a smile twitching at the corners of his mouth, "thou hast a quaint conceit. As for the pair of eyes with which I regard thee, I would say that they are as favourable as may be, for I hear much good of thee, and little ill. What is thy will of me?" "Now I make my vow, Sir Knight," quoth Robin, "thou hast surely learned thy wisdom of good Gaffer Swalthold, for he saith, fair words are as easy spoke as foul, and bring good will in the stead of blows. Now I'll show thee the truth of this saying, for if thou wilt go with me to this day to Sherwood Forest, I will give thee as merry a feast as ever thou hast in all thy life." "Thou art indeed kind," said the knight, "but methinks thou wilt find me but an ill-seeming and sorrowful guest. Thou hadst best let me pass on my way in peace." "Nay," quoth Robin, "thou mightest go thine own way, but for one thing, and that I will tell thee. We keep an inn, as it were, in the very depths of Sherwood, but so far from high roads and beaten paths that guests do not often come nigh us. So I and my friends set off merrily, and seek them when we grow dull of ourselves. Thus the matter stands, Sir Knight. Yet I will furthermore tell thee that we count upon our guests paying a reckoning." "I take thy meaning, friend," said the knight gravely, But I am not thy man, for I have no money by me. Is it sooth? Said Robin, looking at the knight keenly. I can scarce choose but believe thee. Yet, sir knight, there be those of thy order whose word is not to be trusted as much as they would have others believe. Thou wilt think no ill if I look for myself in this matter. Then, still holding the horse by the bridle rein, he put his fingers to his lips and blew a shrill whistle, whereupon fourscore yeomen came leaping over the stile and ran to where the knight and Robin stood. These, said Robin, looking upon them proudly, are some of my merry men. They share and share alike with me all joys and troubles, gains and losses. Sir knight, I pray thee, tell me what money thou hast about thee. For a time the knight said not a word, but a slow red rose into his cheeks. At last he looked Robin in the face and said, I know not why I should be ashamed, for it should be no shame to me. But, friend, I tell thee the truth, when I say that in my purse are 10 shillings, and that is every groat that Sir Richard of the Lea hath in all the wide world. When Sir Richard ended, a silence fell, until at last Robin said, And dost thou pledge me thy knightly word that this is all thou hast with thee? Yea, answered Sir Richard. I do pledge thee my most solemn word, as a true knight, that it is all the money I have in the world. Nay, here's my purse. Ye may find for yourselves the truth of what I say. And he held his purse out to Robin. Put up thy purse, Sir Richard, quoth Robin. Far be it from me to doubt the word of so gentle a knight. The proud I strive to bring low, but those that walk in sorrow I would aid if I could. Come, Sir Richard, cheer up thy heart, and go with us into the greenwood. Even I may perchance aid thee, if thou surely knowest how the good Athelstan was saved by the little blind moe that diggeth a trench over which he that sought the king's life stumbled. Truly, friend, said Sir Richard, methinks thou meanest kindness in thine own way. Nevertheless, my troubles are such that it is not likely that thou canst cure them. But I will go with but I will go with thee this day into Sherwood. Let me just get another drink of water. Hence, hereupon he turned his horse's head, and they all wended their way into the woodlands, Robin walking on one side of the knight, and Will Scarlet on the other, while the rest of the band trudged behind. After they had travelled thus for a time, Robin Hood spake. Sir knight, said he, I would not trouble thee with idle questions, but dost thou find it in thy heart to tell me thy sorrows? Truly, Robin, quoth the knight, I see no reason why I should not do so. Thus it is. My castle and my lands are in pawn for a debt that I owe. 3 days hence the money must be paid, or else all mine estate is lost forever. For then it falls into the hands of the Priory of Emmet, and what they swallow they never give forth again. Oh, hello there, Lorelei Savalis. Welcome. Thank you for the lurk. We are in the middle of reading The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. Quoth Robin, I understand not why those of thy kind live in such a manner that all their wealth passeth from them like snow beneath the springtide sun. Thou wrongest me, Robin, said the knight, for listen, I have a son but 20 winters old. Nevertheless he has won his spurs as knight. Last year, on a certain evil day, the jousts were held at Chester, and thither my son went, as did I and my lady wife. Oh, I wot it was a proud time for us, for he unhorsed each knight that he tilted against. At last he ran a course with a certain great knight, Sir Walter of Lancaster. Yet though my son was so youthful, he kept his seat, albeit both spears were shivered to the heft. But it happened that a splinter of my boy's lance ran through the visor of Sir Walter's helmet, pierced through his eye into his brain, so that he died ere his esquire could unlace his helm. Now Robin, Sir Walter had great friends at court, therefore his kinsmen stirred up things against my son, so that, to save him from prison, I had to pay a ransom of £600 in gold. All might have gone well even yet, only that by in and outs and crookedness of laws, I was shown like a sheep that is clipped to the quick. So it came that I had to pawn my lands to the Priory of Emmet for more money, and a hard bargain they drove with me in my hour of need. Yet I would have thee understand, I grieve so for my lands only because of my dear lady wife. And where is thy son now? Asked Robin, who had listened closely to all the knights had said. In Palestine, said Sir Richard, battling like a brave Christian soldier for the cross and the Holy Sepulchre. Truly England was an ill place for him, because of Sir Walter's death and the hate of the Lancastrians' kinsmen. I'm guessing by the what we can tell by, I want to say, I might be wrong, by the king involved, by the date, it's probably the First Crusade, I want to say. Because the normal one who is often pegged in the Robin Hood stories, which is King Richard, he was involved in a crusade, but that was the Third Crusade, which was an interesting story behind that one. But I believe this is taking place during the First Crusade. And the less said about the Fourth Crusade, the better. Well, about every crusade. Every crusade was nonsense, let's be honest. Truly, said Robin, much moved, thine is a hard lot. But tell me, what is owing to Emmet for thine estates? Only £400, said Sir Richard. At this Robin smote his thigh in anger. Oh, the bloodsuckers! cried he. A noble estate to be forfeit for £400? But what will befall thee if thou dost lose thy lands, Sir Richard? It is not mine own lot that doth trouble me in that case, said the knight, but my dear lady's. For should I lose my land, she will have to betake herself to some kinsman, and there abide in charity, which methinks would break her proud heart. As for me, I will over the salt sea and so to Palestine to join my son and fight for the Holy Sepulchre. Then up spake Will Scarlet. But hast thou no friend that would help thee in thy dire need? Never a man, said Sir Richard. While I was rich and now at home, and had friends, they blew great boasts of how they loved me. And when the oak falls in the forest, the swine run from beneath it, lest they should be smitten down also. So my friends have left me. For not only am I poor, but I have great enemies. Then Robin said, Thou sayest thou hast no friends, Sir Richard. I make no boast, but many have found Robin Hood a friend in their troubles. Cheer up, Sir Knight, I may help thee yet. The knight shook his head with a faint smile, but for all that, Robin's words made him more blithe of heart. For in truth hope, be it never so faint, bringeth a gleam into darkness, like a little rushlight that costeth but a groat. The day was well nigh gone when they came near to the greenwood tree. Even at a distance, they saw by the number of men that Little John had come back with some guest. But when they came near enough, whom should they find but the Lord Bishop of Hereford? The good bishop was in a fine stew, I wot. Up and down he walked beneath the tree like a fox caught in a hen coop. Behind him were three black friars standing close together in a frightened group, like three black sheep in a tempest. Hitched to the branches of the trees close at hand were six horses, one of them a barb with gay trappings upon which the bishop was wont to ride, and the others laden with packs of divers shapes and kinds, one of which made Robin's eyes glisten, for it was a box not over large, but heavily bound with bands and ribs of iron. When the bishop saw Robin and those with him come into the open, he made as though he would have run toward the yeoman, but the fellow that guarded the bishop and the three friars thrust his quarterstaff in front, so that his lordship was fain to stand back, though with frowning brow and angry speech. "Stay, my lord bishop," cried jolly Robin in a loud voice when he saw what had passed. "I will come to thee with all speed, for I would rather see thee than any man in merry England." So saying, he quickened his steps, and soon came to where the bishop stood fuming. "How now?" quoth the bishop in a loud, angry voice, when Robin had so come to him. "Is this the way that thou and thy band treat one so high in the church as I am? I and these brethren were passing peacefully along the high road with our pack horses, and a half score of men to guard them, when up comes a great strapping fellow full 7 feet high, with 80 or more men back of him, and calls upon me to stop. Me, the Lord Bishop of Hereford, mark thou! Whereupon my armed guards beshrew them for cowards, straight ran away. But look ye, not only did this fellow stop me, he threatened me, saying that Robin Hood would strip me as bare as a winter hedge. Then besides all this he called me such vile names as fat priest, man-eating bishop, money-gorging user, and what not, as though I were no more than a strolling beggar or tinker. Moreover, when I came here, I found a great fat man, a mock priest, that slapped me upon the shoulder, as though God wot, were a pot-housed fellow. "Many come up with a wanton!" cried Friar Tuck, bustling forward and thrusting himself in front of the bishop. "Many come up, I say!" And he snapped his fingers under the bishop's nose, whereat the others started back as though the snap were a clap of thunder. "Mock priest, thou callest me, forsooth! Look ye now, bishop, I warrant I am as holy a man as thou art, and might have been a bishop mine own self, had I not been born under a hedge. I am as learned too as thou art, albeit I could never master that vile Latin, my tongue being shaped only for good stout English. Yet I tell thee I can say my paters and aves with no more slip on the tongue, thou fat man." So it is worth noting at this time what Tuck says, that at the time the church of the Christian church did all their litany in Latin. It was considered an offense to use English in the litany. It would be much, 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 much later that they dropped the idea of a Latin Mass. But at this time, the idea that Tuck isn't speaking Latin, but rather prefers speaking English, is meant to show just what a sort of a rough kind of. He's lowborn. As he said, he's not born of any nobility or anything. He probably entered the church as a way to get an education, which is what many young men did. It was one way a young poor man could get an education, was to become a priest, because you'd be taught Latin, you'd be taught to read, you'd be taught to write, which were all skills that you normally couldn't get if you were a young man, a young low-born man in England at the time. In fact, many of the churches are the sources. Many of the orders were the sources of what later became the university system. So there's your little factoid for that. At this, the bishop glared like an angry cat, whilst even Sir Richard laughed. Only Robin kept a grave face. "Stand back, Tuck," said he. "Thou shouldst not beard this his lordship's reverence in this wise. Alas, my lord, that thou hast been so ill treated by my band. I tell thee truly that we greatly reverence thy cloth. Little John, stand forth straightway." At these words, Little John came forward, twisting his face into a whimsical look, as though he would say, "Ha, mercy upon me, good master." Then Robin turned to the Bishop of Hereford and said, "Was this the man who spake so boldly to your lordship?" "Ay, truly it was the same," said the bishop. "A naughty fellow, I wot." Lady Yumi, I love these history lessons. Ah, thank you. I enjoy telling history. "And didst thou, Little John," said Robin in a sad voice, "call his lordship a fat priest?" "Ay," said Little John sorrowfully. "And a man-eating bishop?" "Ay," said Little John more sorrowfully than before. "And a money-gorging usurer?" "Ay," said Little John in so sorrowful a voice that it might have drawn tears from the dragon of Wentley. "Alas, that these things should be," said jolly Robin, turning to the bishop, "for I have ever found Little John a truthful man." At this a roar of laughter went up, whereat the blood rushed into the bishop's face till it was cherry red from crown to chin. But he said nothing, only swallowed his words, though they well nigh choked him. "Nay, my lord bishop," said Robin, we are rough fellows, but I trust not such ill men as thou thinkest after all. There is not a man here that would harm a hair of thy reverence's head. I know thou art gulled by our jesting, but we are equal here in the greenwood, for there are no bishops, nor barons, nor earls among us, but only men. So thou must share our life with us while thou dost abide here. Come, busk ye, my men, and get the feast ready. Meantime we will show our guests our woodland sports." So whilst some went to kindle the fires for roasting meats, others ran leaping to get their cudgels and longbows. Then Robin brought forth Sir Richard of the Lea. "My lord bishop," said he, "here's another guest that we have with us this day. I wish that thou mightest know him better, for I and all my men will strive to honour you both at this merry-making." "Sir Richard," said the bishop in a reproachful tone, "methinks thou and I are companions and fellow sufferers in this den of—" He was about to say thieves, but he stopped suddenly and looked aghast at Robin Hood. "Speak out, bishop," quoth Robin, laughing. "We of Sherwood check not an easy flow of words. Den of thieves, thou wast about to say?" Quoth the bishop, "Mayhap that was what I meant to say, Sir Richard. But this I will say, that I saw thee just now laugh at the scurrilous jests of these fellows. It would have been more becoming of thee, methinks, to have checked them with frowns, instead of spurring them on by laughter." "I meant no harm to thee," said Sir Richard, "but a merry jest is a merry jest, and I may truly say I would have laughed at it, had it been against mine own self." But now Robin Hood called upon certain ones of his band to spread soft moss upon the ground, and laid deerskins thereon. Then Robin bade his guests be seated, and so they all three sat down, some of the chief men, such as Little John, Will Scarlet, Allan a Dale, and others, stretching themselves upon the ground near by. Then a garland was set up at the far end of the glade, and thereat the bowmen shot, and such shooting was done that day as it would have made one's heart leap to see. And all the while Robin talked so quaintly to the bishop and to the knight that the one forgetting his vexation and the others his troubles, they both laughed aloud again and again. 10 men shot 3 rounds of arrows each, and although the garland was but 3 palms' breadth width, and was full 70 yards distance, only 2 arrows went without the ring. 1 second, my dear scholars, I will be right back. Oh, I'm back, my dear scholars. Sorry about that. I had to organize some books. Excuse me. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. By Our Lady, good friend. No, that's the bishop. My mistake. By Our Lady, good friend, said the bishop to Robin. Never did I see such shooting in all my life as these men of thine do. But I have heard so oft of thy skill. Canst thou not show us a touch of it? Why, quoth Robin, the light groweth somewhat dim, and things begin to glimmer. Nevertheless, I will try what I can do. So saying, he arose from where he sat, and then, drawing his dagger, he cut a hazel wand, a little greater in girth than a man's thumb, and peeling the bark therefrom, he walked with measured steps 80 yards distance. Then he thrust the staff into the ground, and came back to where the others sat, and Allan a Dale handed him his good stout yew bow, which Robin forthwith strung. Then emptying his quiver upon the ground, he searched among the arrows carefully, till he had chosen one to his liking. Having so done, he nocked the arrow, and stood in position, and all around was so hushed that you might have heard the falling of a leaf. Then he drew the string quickly to his ear, and straightened his bow arm, and ere you could draw breath, loosed the string with a twang. So swift flew the arrow that the eye could not follow it, but a great shout went up from the yeomen when it had sped, and Will Scathlock ran leaping and brought the wand, and lo, the arrow was sticking in the wood where it had cleft. Then all the yeomen shouted again, till those about the fires came running, for they were proud of their master's skill, which none could hope to match. But meantime Robin had set him down again between his guests. Then, without giving them time for word of praise. He called upon those of his band who were the most deft at quarterstaff. So they sat and watched the game till the shades of evening fell, and there was no light in which to give stroke or parry. Then Allan a Dale came forth and tuned his harp, and all was hushed around. And he sang in his wondrous voice songs of love, of war, of glory, and of sadness, and all listened without a movement or a sound. So Allan sang till the great round silver moon gleamed with its clear white light amid the upper tangle of the mazy branches of the trees. Wait, if Allan a Dale is in the forest, where is his wife? Did his wife come to live with him in Sherwood Forest? Where did she go? I'm curious. At last, two fellows came to say that the feast was ready spread. So Robin, leading his guests with either hand, brought them to where great smoking dishes that sent savory smells far and near stood along the white linen cloth spread on the grass. All around was a glare of torches that lit everything up with a red light. Then, straightway sitting down, all fell to with noise and hubbub, the rattling of platters blending with the sound of loud talking and laughter. A long time the feast lasted, but at last all was over, and the bright wine and humming ale passed briskly. Then Robin Hood called aloud for silence, and all were hushed till he spoke. I have a story to tell you all, so listen to what I have to say, quoth he, whereupon without more ado he told them all about Sir Richard, and how his lands were in pawn. But as he went on, the bishop's face, that had erst been smiling and ruddy with merriment, waxed serious, and he put aside the horn of wine he held in his hand, for he knew the story of Sir Richard, and his heart sank within him with grim forebodings. Then when Robin Hood had done, he turned to the Bishop of Hereford. Now, my lord bishop, said he, dost thou not think that this is ill done of anyone, much more of a churchman, who should live in humbleness and charity? To this the bishop answered not a word, but looked upon the ground with moody eyes. Quoth Robin, Now thou art the richest bishop in all England. Canst thou not help this needy brother? But still the bishop answered not a word. Then Robin turned to Little John, and quoth he, Go thou, and Will Stuteley, and bring forth those 5 pack horses yonder. Whereupon the 2 yeomen did as they were bidden, those about the cloth making room on the green, where the light was brightest, for the 5 horses which Little John and Will Stuteley presently led forward. Who hath the score of the goods? Asked Robin Hood, looking at the Black Friars. Then up spake the smallest of all in a trembling voice, an old man he was, with a gentle, wrinkled face. That have I, but I pray thee, harm me not. Nay, quoth Robin, I have never harmed harmless men yet. But give it to me, good fellow, good father. So the old man did as he was bidden, and handed Robin the tablet on which was marked down the account of the various packages upon the horses. This Robin handed to Will Scarlet, bidding him to read the same. So Will Scarlet, lifting his voice that all might hear, began. 3 bales of silk to Quintin, the mercer of Ancaster. That we touch not, quoth Robin, for this Quintin is an honest fellow, who hath risen by his own theft. So the bales of silk were laid aside unopened. 1 bale of silk velvet for the Abbey of Beaumont. What do these priests want of silk velvet? Quoth Robin. Nevertheless, though they need it not, I will not take all from them. Measure it off into 3 lots, one to be sold for charity, one for us, and one for the abbey. So this too was done as Robin Hood bade. 2 scores of great wax candles for the chapel of St. Thomas. That belongeth fairly to the chapel, quoth Robin, so lay it to one side. Far be it from us to take from the blessed St. Thomas that which belongeth to him. So this also was done according to Robin's bidding, and the candles were laid to one side, along with honest Quinton's unopened bales of silk. So the list was gone through with, and the goods adjusted accordingly to what Robin thought most fit. Most things were laid aside untouched, and many were opened and divided into 3 equal parts, for charity, for themselves, and for the owners. And now all the ground in the torchlight was covered over with silk and velvets and cloths of gold and cases of rich wines. So they came to the last line upon the tablet: a box belonging to the Lord Bishop of Hereford. At these words the bishop shook as with a chill, and the box was set upon the ground. My Lord Bishop, hast thou the key of this box? At these words the bishop shook as with a chill. Oh no, I read back, sorry. The bishop shook his head. Go, Will Scarlet, said Robin. Thou art the strongest man here. Bring a sword straightway, and cut this box open, if thou canst. Then up rose Will Scarlet and left them, coming back in a short time, bearing a great 2-handed sword. Thrice he smote that strong iron-bound box, and at the 3rd blow it burst open, and a great heap of gold came rolling forth, gleaming red in the light of the torches. At this sight a murmur went all around among the band, like the sound of the wind in distant trees. But no man came forward nor touched the money. Quoth Robin, thou, Will Scarlet, thou, Allan a Dale, and thou, Little John, count it over. A long time it took to count all the money, and when it had been duly scored up, Will Scarlet called out that there were 1,500 golden pounds in all. But in among the gold they found a paper, and this Will Scarlet read in a loud voice, and all heard that this money was the rental and fines and forfeits from certain estates belonging to the bishopric of Hereford. My Lord Bishop, said Robin Hood, I will not strip thee, as Little John said, like a winter hedge, for thou shalt take back 1/3 of thy money. 1/3 of it thou canst well spare to us for thy entertainment, and that of thy train, for thou art very rich. And 1/3 of it thou canst better spare for charity. For, Bishop, I hear that thou art a hard master to those beneath thee, and a close hoarder of gains that thou couldst better and with more credit to thyself give to charity than spend upon thy own likings. At this the bishop looked up, but he could say never a word. Yet he was thankful to keep some of his wealth. Then Robin turned to Sir Richard of the Lea, and quoth he, Now, Sir Richard, the church seemed like to despoil thee. Therefore some of the overplus of church gains may well be used in aiding thee. Thou shalt take that £500 laid aside for people more in need than the bishop is, and shalt pay thy debts to Emmet therewith. Sir Richard looked at Robin until something arose in his eyes that made all the lights and the faces blur together. At last he said, I thank thee, friend, from all my heart, for what thou doest for me. Yet think not ill if I cannot take thy gift freely. But this I will do. I will take the money and pay my debts, and in a year and a day hence will return it safe either to thee or to the Lord Bishop of Hereford. For this I pledge my most solemn knightly word. Feel free to borrow, for I know no man that should be more bound to aid me than one so high in that church that hath driven such a hard bargain with me. Truly, sir knight, quoth Robin, I do not understand those fine scruples that weigh with those of thy kind, but nevertheless it shall all be as thou dost wish. But thou hadst best make better use of it than the bishop. Thereupon, turning to those near him, he gave his orders, and £500 were counted out and tied up in a leathern bag for Sir Richard. The rest of the treasure was divided, and part taken to the treasure house of the band, and part put by which the other things with the other things for the bishop. Then Sir Richard arose. I cannot stay later, good friends, said he, for my lady will wax anxious if I come not home, so I crave leave to depart. Then Robin Hood and all his merry men arose, and Robin said, We cannot let thee go hence unattended, Sir Richard. Then up spake Little John. Good master, let me choose a score of stout fellows from the band, and let us arm ourselves in a solemn manner, and so serve as retainers to Sir Richard till he can get others in our stead. Thou hast spoken well, Little John, and it shall be done, said Robin. Then up spake Will Scarlet. Let us give him a golden chain to hang about his neck, such as benefits one of his blood, and also golden spurs to wear at his heels. Then Robin Hood said, Thou hast spoken well, Will Scarlet, and it shall be done. Then up spake Will Stuteley. Let us give him yon bale of rich... I'm trying to get that accent again. Let us give him yon bale of rich velvet, and yon roll of cloth of gold, to take home to his noble lady wife, as a present from Robin Hood, and his merry men all. I couldn't get the Scottish accent this for some reason this time. At this all clapped their hands for joy, and Robin said, Thou hast well spoken, Will Stuteley, and it shall be done. Then Sir Richard of the Lea looked all around and strove to speak, but could scarcely do so for the feelings that choked him. At last he said in a husky, trembling voice, Ye shall all see, good friends, that Sir Richard o' the Lea will ever remember your kindness this day. And if ye be at any time in dire need or trouble, come to me and my lady, and the walls of Castle Lea shall be battered down ere harm shall befall you. He could say nothing further, but turned hastily away. Now Little John and 19 stout fellows, whom he had chosen for his band, came forth all ready for the journey. Each man wore upon his breast a coat of linked mail, and on his head a cap of steel, and at his side a good stout sword. A gallant show they made as they stood all in a row. Then Robin came and threw a chain of gold about Sir Richard's neck, and Will Scarlet knelt and buckled the golden spurs upon his heels. And now Little John led forward Sir Richard's horse, and the knight mounted. He looked down at Robin for a little time, then of a sudden stooped and kissed his cheek. All the forest glades rang with the shout that went up as the knight and the yeoman marched off through the woodland, with glare of torches and gleam of silver, and so were gone. Then up spake the Bishop of Hereford in a mournful voice. I too must be jogging, good fellow, for the night waxes late. But Robin laid his hand upon the bishop's arm, and stayed him. Be not so hasty, Lord Bishop, said he. 3 days hence Sir Richard must pay his debts to Emmet. Until that time thou must be content to abide with me, lest thou breed trouble for the night. I promise thee that thou shalt have great sport, for I know that thou art fond of hunting the dun deer. Lay by thy mantle of melancholy, and strive to lead a joyous yeoman life for 3 stout days. I promise thee thou shalt be sorry to go when the time has come. So the bishop and his train abided with Robin for 3 days, and much sport his lordship had in that time, so that, as Robin had said, when the time had come for him to go, he was sorry to leave the greenwood. At the end of 3 days Robin set him free, and sent him forth from the forest with a guard of yeomen to keep freebooters from taking what was left of the packs and bundles. But, as the bishop rode away, he vowed within himself that he would some time, make Robin rue the day that he stopped him in Sherwood. But now we shall follow Sir Richard. So listen, and you shall hear what befell him, and how he paid his debts at Emmet Priory, and likewise in due season to Robin Hood. And we shall stop there for the night. Oh my goodness. So much was done. Oh, I'm a little dizzy actually. So, my dear scholars, what'd you think of these chapters tonight? I am anxious to hear your thoughts. Alien 20, great read. Oh, thank you, thank you. I try. Private Maverick, pretty neat. Yes, it was. It was interesting to see Robin Hood help one of the nobility in this one, because usually which much of the chapters involve him helping the poorer class, the yeoman class, and all that. But in this one, he actually helped a noble. Mind you, it was a noble who had been disenfranchised essentially, but a noble nonetheless. So, next week, there's going to be a little change in Private Maverick. Marion hasn't appeared yet, has she? She has not appeared yet. She was mentioned in the very first chapter when he became an outlaw, but she hasn't been seen since. So, where was I? Oh, yes. Next week, there'll be a little change of plans. Tuesday, we will be doing a very special stream, an Oban Festival themes stream. I will maybe be reading some little stories, but I will definitely be playing a new game just for that evening. We'll be playing some Taiko, my dear scholars, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. I've never played a rhythm game before, so we'll see how well I'll do. And then that Thursday, if everything goes according to plan, we'll be reading more of the Merry Adventures of Robin Hood. So for tonight, we will be rating Sophia Ignacy. Looks like she's reading The Phoenix on the Carpet, which is an interesting little fantasy story from Britain. So, my dear scholars, I say unto you, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, till we meet each other again at the study. Take care, and I shall see you next time. Till then, farewell and bye bye.